Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are joining us. This is the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya's weekly webinars hosted every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And we're very delighted that you've been able to join us. So as per the usual, we are going to start off with a short word of prayer. So let me invite Lauren, who's going to lead us in that. Lauren, karibu sana.
Thank you, Susan. Let us all believe and pray. Heavenly Father, in the mighty and most glorified name of Jesus, we bless you and we honor you this afternoon, thanking you for being with us the whole morning and for this opportunity you've given us to come together in this forum, my Father. How I pray that you may make our minds alert and our hearts receptive to that to which you've planned for us this day. Start with us and enable the speaker, King of Glory, for it is in Jesus' mighty and most glorious name that we've prayed with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for that, Lorraine. Once again, karibuni sana, everyone, from wherever you're joining us. If you're joining us on Zoom, on Facebook, if this is your first time on our platform, or if you are one of our regulars, we are very, very thrilled that you're able to join us again. As usual, we do this every Wednesday, as I said, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And what we do is that we choose subjects or topics that are very, very crucial to the training needs of our members at the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya. And this week, we continue with our discussions, and we are going to focus on the go-to-market, specifically having a proper go-to-market strategy. Now, what is contained in that particular document and what does it mean in business? I think many of you, considering that you're actually entrepreneurs, you've had times when you're trying to launch a new product. Maybe you're trying to rebrand that product and actually get into the market. And it's usually not that easy. So with that being the case, I mean, we all want to grow. We want our companies to grow. And the growth for our companies comes from, from different sources, like, you're raising the capital to help the company grow. As you're trying not to launch a new product, this particular document, or let me just say a strategy, let me not just call it a document, is without it, you end up spending so much time just spinning around, going in circles, wondering, what am I doing wrong? Competition is very, very fierce out there. The resources are limited, especially considering last year and this year with the COVID situation. We all need that document that you can fall back on, a roadmap that's going to guide you and help you to be able to have a very, very effective way of launching this new product or rebranding, whatever you want to do. So this particular topic is quite crucial, and it has really been requested by our members. And we're very, very happy that we have an expert, a very, very experienced individual who's able to, take us through this, teach us, give us a few tips. And yes, it's going to be a very, very powerful discussion. As mentioned, this is hosted by the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network in Kenya. And to tell us more about the organization, a brief introduction, and also for the welcome remarks, I would like to introduce a member of the Programs and Trainings Committee. This is Rose Nginja. Rose, karibu sana.
Oh, thank you very much, Susan. I'm so glad to hear that, to see that Robert is already seated and just gearing to take off. Thank you, Robert, for being here. Now,
Thanks so
just
much.
a brief, you're welcome. Just a brief on Commonwealth Businesswomen Network, Kenya. The Commonwealth Business Women Network, Kenya, CBWNK, is a ground partner of the Commonwealth Business Women Network, CBWN. CBWN is a registered community interest company in the United Kingdom. CBWN is an accredited organization directly recognized by 54 governments across 6 continents committed to advancing UN Sustainable Development Goal 5 and the Commonwealth Charter. CBWN is focused on women's leadership and economic empowerment. We have a mandate to network over 1 billion women in the Commonwealth for the sole purpose of connecting, collaborating, and doing commerce. Our mission is to strengthen the Commonwealth, build businesses, and advance women through our 3 T's, which are talent, training, and trade. So what we are doing today is one of the 3 T's, which is embedded in the mission of CBWN. Through the 3 T's, we encourage, enable, and embed women's economic empowerment. So that's what we are doing today, is a training bit which falls under our mission and to deliver the vision that we have gone through. So once again, thank you very much, Robert, for availing yourself for this session, and I hand this back over to Susan.
All right. Thank you so much, Rose, for those welcome remarks. And yes, we are very, very honored that Robert accepted our invitation and he's here to teach us today. Now, I'm sure we're all looking forward to the presentation. So let me very, very quickly invite Lauren back, who's going to briefly introduce us to Robert, tell us a bit about him, and also welcome him to officially start the presentation. So karibu once again, Lauren.
Thank you, Susan. It is my pleasure at this juncture to introduce the speaker of the day, Robert Karaoke, the Executive Director and founder of Business Age Consulting East Africa. He is an MBA graduate from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT, specializing in entrepreneurship, and also holds a BA degree, Hons, in economics, marketing, and business studies from Kenyatta University. He is a full member of KIM, that is Kenya Institute of Management, and Marketing Society of Kenya, MSK. He has 26 years of commercial consulting experience acquired within Kenya, Eastern Africa, Central Africa, Ethiopia, and the Horn of Africa regions, leading teams that have been responsible for the development, production, launch, and growth of key FMCG brands that currently hold substantial market shares within their respective markets. He is an FMCG manufacturing turnaround expert and has worked as a senior executive and lead consultant for blue chip companies operating within the Eastern, Southern, and Horn of Africa regions, creating shareholder value through managing and turning around companies back to profitability. He offers business advisory services to SMEs within the agribusiness segment and transaction advisory services, that is mergers and acquisition, within Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and Horn of Africa. Robert has 15 years of experience, have been acquired within the dairy value chain, Eastern Africa and Ethiopia, as a CEO, general manager, and as a director. Robert is formerly the head of sales and marketing in Unga Farm Care East Africa, Unga Limited, and country manager, Brookside Dairy Limited, Eastern Africa, amongst other leading companies in the region that includes Coca-Cola and Diageo. Robert's professional and career objectives have always been to seek consultancy, oversight, board, and leadership positions within innovative, dynamic, and business growth-oriented organizations, where he adds value to the shareholders and stakeholders, investment portfolio, while ensuring that the return on investment exceeds expectations and achieves the set performance targets based on the organization's mission, vision, and core values. That is just a brief of who Robert is. And I believe we are all geared to hear from him. Karibu, Bwana Karaoke.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I think that is well said. And I wish to welcome all the participants in today's, as we correctly put it, as a training program. And in terms of the background, I need not add more than what has been said by Lorraine. Been in the FMCG blue chip companies, let me say majorly part of the sub-Saharan Africa region, and ultimately running my own company as a founder, which is 14 years old now, and which I used to do during my as a part-time job and also during my vacations. So ideally today we'll be looking at what we commonly call as known as go-to-market or route-to-market. Either of them is relevant, and we had prepared a presentation that would be shared on the screen and by Susan. And considering the time factor that we've been accorded, then we'll make it very quick and probably run through the slides. Some are quite busy, but we'll ensure that I pick up the key highlights for each of the participants to sort of understand, and then ultimately leading to the Q&A. I think, Susan, we could start off with the first one.
Sorry about that. Let me just start. Just a sec. Alrighty. Sorry, just one sec. Let me just do it again. All right, here we go.
Second slide would do, then we run through the rest.
Sorry. Okay. I know it keeps going. So we start from the second one, this one.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
This is, yeah, it's basically an introduction. Is an introduction of the route to market in terms of what is route to market. Actually, it's a very simple way of identifying one's, and ours is more based on, and that's why we are calling it an FMCG. And for the rest of the team, FMCG normally stands for fast moving consumer goods. And in this category, we consider products like dairy products, the bread, newspapers. Literally fast moving means that probably you have to transact the same day. And it's worth mentioning that we've tailor-made this presentation for the FMCG, but is applicable to any other product that is being sold by anyone within the segment. So I think continuing from, I won't read everything, but I'm just giving a very brief introduction. It's mainly a route to market strategy is meant to make it a structured way of delivering a product from manufacturing point to the end user. And we know the journey plan is basically you manufacture a product, then there are intermediaries. And let's take an example, a packet of milk. Now that I've spent a lot of my time and life and career in the dairy industry, when the processor releases the product from a cold room, say because it needs a cold chain, it has to go through some vehicles that most likely will be refrigerated before it gets to a distributor or it goes to an agent, or whoever is an intermediary before it gets to either the consumer. The consumer is the end user. There are so many different trade channels that we'll discuss in this presentation. So there's an agent involved or a distributor, then there's an outlet that receives the products, and then the outlet, be it a supermarket or a kiosk, will ultimately be selling the same product to the end user. And that's what goes into a house, a kitchen, makes a cup of tea, or even it's drunk as normal milk. So the entire objective is to, for any manufacturer, is to ensure that the cycle from order to delivery is as short and fast as possible. And when we say order to delivery means you placed an order with your customers, say a manufacturer, how fast does it get to the distributor, how fast does it get to the kiosk, and how fast does it get to the consumer? There's a word we use a lot in FMCG, arm's length. If you stretch your arm, that means within the shortest distance, you can be able to access a brand that you'll be looking for. So the RTM for FMCG companies can make or break the organization. But remember, it's all run by people and company policies and procedures. So I'd rather we move to that next slide so that I can break it down further. Susan, the third slide, I guess. Yeah, we are calling it a strategy. Whatever you see may not be very clear, is a shelf that is full of some products in a supermarket. So what's the importance? We need to talk about the benefits, and we need to have some insights on how we can grow and what are the challenges that you'll be experiencing whenever you want to implement your route to market in your business. So we can move on and then we'll be able to break it down further. These are just the stages. You need to identify who are your consumers, what do they want? That's on my left-hand side. That's number one. What's the gap? We always say that unless you segment your market, whenever you're launching a product, there are products we normally call, for those of you who are familiar, we call them economic segments. There's an AB, which is the very top end. We like using examples of cars, because if you're going to buy a brand new Mercedes from a showroom, vis-a-vis going to buy a Toyota, which is a second-hand car, it depends on your disposable income. So who do you want to target when you're making and manufacturing a product? And the moment you make that decision based on, obviously, a survey, then you need now to create a product to meet the expectations of that clientele. Then you're asking yourself, as indicated in number 2, where are you going to play? What are the prerequisites? What's a portfolio? When you talk about marketing, anytime, as the subsequent slides will be indicating, it's more to do with what we call the 5 principles of marketing, which I'll expound on as we go along. And how will you win? Remember, you're not in a monopolistic environment. So there are so many players in any industry, be it bread, milk, sugar, anything that you buy, especially on the FMCGs. You'll find many other players who are claiming to have the best quality, the best prices, and the best availability. So you literally have to understand who your competitors are, and then come up with your execution plan and strategy, as is indicated in number 4. So we can move to the next slide. Yeah, a route to market ideally rides on what we call the 5 principles of marketing. A lot of the people, probably participants here who went through the marketing class, are normally told about the 5 P's of marketing, but no one is able to expound what it really stands for, including the first one, which is a product. We've just talked about, if you have a product, what purpose is it supposed to deliver? That's what we call a functionality. For example, if you wanted to buy butter from an outlet, what are you looking for? Is it salted butter, unsalted butter? How easily is it to spread on bread? Appearance is very, very important when you're launching a fast-moving consumer good. Quality is all about consistency. If you buy a product today, a beverage or a juice, and it tastes different tomorrow and the next day, then likelihood you drop it off and take the next brand that is available. And then we are looking at the prices. Remember, we talked about high-end, medium to low-end. There are products that are pricing are set based on who you want to target and the quality. It's value for money. Again, if you're using the example of a non-FMCG like a vehicle, you buy a high-end car because of the safety features or the power in the engine and all that. And then you're looking at the discounts that you'll get. Do we have, for example, if you're buying an asset, they are financing option. So price is very important, and price also includes the trading terms. So that's why we talk about the principles of marketing. Then we are looking at the placement. What is placement? Where are you going to access that product from? We call the channels, like supermarkets, the kiosk showrooms, and how are they going to be delivered? And that's where distributors come in whenever you want to get a product closer to the target market. And then promotion is very, very important. Whenever we talk about promotion, if you have a new product that is not known, you need to create awareness about the existence of that product. You can either go to what we call above the line, what they commonly say ATL. ATL is using mediums like TV, radio. Below the line is where you have very, very close proximity to your consumers. Like what you find in supermarkets, you're taking some yogurt and they're telling you, please taste this new yogurt. Is to convince you through trials, or at times they are running offers that you buy one, get one free. So that's the whole essence of promotional activities. But remember, all these principles of marketing are driven by people. So for example, if you don't have a strong sales team or you don't have a strong distribution channel, customer service, then likelihood your competitors will be beating you. It's a very wide scope, but that's why we call it mix, because they all mix to deliver one essence, availing the product to your consumers and to the right place, right pricing, and then creating awareness through promotional activities. I think we can move to the next slide. I've actually expounded on the product, the pricing, the placement, and the promotional activities. Very, very important that you have, I need re-emphasize on the issue of people. Very, very important. I've talked about BTL, ATL. Obviously, all these costs resources, so you have to have a proper budgeting process for the same. Okay, kindly move to the next slide. Sorry, I think this.
Did I skip one?
I think you've skipped one.
I did, right? Okay. Previous. This one?
Yes.
Or the okay.
This we can still move with this, because whenever you're selling to your customers, you need to understand what is the medium of reaching those customers. Generally, we have like 5 common terms that are used, and that's whenever we talk about a general trade. General trade entails having your products delivered through the distributors, agents, wholesalers, and even kiosks, because we call it general because it's very unstructured. For example, if you wanted to deliver products into one of the low-end markets in Nairobi, you would not use the same process to deliver the same to Carrefour or to Quickmart or any other supermarket. That's why we like classifying them into different trade channels to enable you have a strategy that is common or that will work in the different channels. Modern trade is quite structured because, for example, if Carrefour or Quickmart decides to order a certain product from your company, assuming you're a manufacturer, then there are basic working tools like you have a contract, you know the trading terms, and they will tell you either deliver to a warehouse or deliver to the branches. So it's sort of a straightforward kind of a transaction. And then there's one category we normally call HoReCas. HoReCas is obviously a short name for hotel, restaurants, and cafeterias. And commonly you find that they ride on the same structure because they are sort of not end users. They are intermediaries, because if you buy a packet or if you buy 5 liters of milk as a restaurant, you most likely use it to make tea. So there's also a different delivery module of working with the hotel, restaurants, and cafeterias. Then we're also looking at institutions, what we call corporates. That includes hospitals, schools, factories, all that related segment. Again, these are B2B, you know, business to business, because it's a factory delivering to the schools, to the hospitals, and to the factories for whatever product that they have ordered, but on FMCG segment. And then Recently, we've all created, especially the practitioners on the route to market, we have what the banks were using previously, alternative business channels. During the COVID window, you know very well that home deliveries and online sales have taken up a chunk of the market. So whereby you find that you go online, log into the app, whether it's the supermarket, sorry, the kiosk will be ordering from Twiga, Jumia for the direct users. So it's taking up a chunk of the trade channels that wasn't there before. Remember, this one is bypassing a lot of the intermediaries instead of going through a distributor wholesaler. So anyone having a keen interest in reaching the consumers directly, this option 5 is very, very important. Okay. We can move to the next one. We decided to show you a map of how territories are demarcated. So for example, you appoint distributors and you want them to cover different market segments geographically. We've taken a map of part of Nairobi, you have the CBD, you have Embakasi, you have Dagoretti. Inside these maps, say whatever is classified as Kasarani, there are outlets that cut across the trade channels. There are supermarkets, there are factories in there, there are kiosks. So when you assign a territory to a certain distributor or wholesaler, then you have to give details of what is inside those territories. And that's how then you manage them in terms of ensuring availability of your products every other day. So this is what we call territorial zoning and demarcation. Very, very important in route to market or to market strategies. I think we can, the next slide, please. A bit of a very busy slide here, but it is very important that whenever you're coming up with a route to market strategy within an establishment, if you have a very well-defined organization, you have to tackle every single line item here. Whatever we've numbered from 1 to 10, you have to have a very well-defined marketing strategy. And as you can see going down there, marketing strategy, you define what is your trade channels, what are your distributors that you want to follow and work with, how are you going to create awareness of your product. And every distribution channel has to have what we call trading terms. Remember, why are you manufacturing a product and why are you selling a product? It's to make a margin or to make a profit out of it. So you have to come up with your trading terms. Are you going to sell on credit? Have you evaluated your credit risks? And that's what really brings down most businesses. Because if you today sold a product and there are no credit terms that are defined, everyone would like to buy your product. But when are you going to get your money? Is what we say in sales that a sale is only complete when you get the money. So 03 defines all those strategies and trade margins. And then if you're going to have contracts, then you have to have the legal guidelines very well defined, more so trading contracts that are legally binding. Huh? And there are items, there are documents that we normally call commercial development agreements or JBPs, which define terms, especially when you're working with supermarkets. You want shelf space from the supermarket. You want them to promote your product. You want to get block displays. And then 05 is about logistics, especially when you're big in terms of like manufacturing. You need to know how many trucks do you need to deliver your product from point A to B? How many pickups? All that is required. Do you need warehouses? What is the size of the warehouses? All that, again, is very, very important. And then if you're appointing distributors, 0.06, it's all about how many distributors you need. What are their requirements? Do they need to have warehouses? Do they need vehicles? And then you need to have what we call evaluation mechanisms before you appoint them and when they are in operations. Normally, when big organizations are also doing route to market restructuring, they have to look at change management. Like you may have 100 salespeople in the country, you only need 50. So you need to relook at your organization structure, define their roles through job descriptions. You know, JDs are normally roles and responsibilities. Okay. Then we are looking at business continuity. Every change disrupts the way things are done in an organization. So you must have contingency planning, because if your route to market restructure, it doesn't work, you should not close your business. There has to be contingency plans to ensure there's business continuity. And then the processes. Many organizations talk about standard operating procedures, what we call SOPs. That is 09. SOPs means that if you're in charge of a department and you're riding on SOPs, that means that even if someone was to exit, one staff, they'll come and go through the same SOPs and the business will continue because it's well defined and everyone within the organization understands it. We're also very clear about ICT, that is line number 10, because running, especially whether small or big, nowadays you need to have what we call the ERPs. ERPs are enterprise resource planning tools. It's a software that helps you manage your dispatches, your inventory, your cash flows, and then you have a dashboard report at the end of the day. Extremely important that you have all these tools with you. And if you achieve like 01 to 010, be rest assured that you have a sustainable business that will take you through almost generations. That's what we normally recommend. We move to the next slide, please. Whenever you're setting up a route to market structure, we have an organization structure where, especially for us as an organization, a company like Business Edge, we normally have a team coming from our clients, what we call a client project team, who works with us. As you can see, there's a Business Edge consulting right there. And then we request the clients to come up with what we call a quality assurance manager. Quality assurance manager will look at what we have committed to deliver in terms of the project. And every day, every week, whenever we have a review meeting, they'll be saying, you're running behind your work schedule or you're running ahead of your work plan. And that's why we prefer having a quality assurance manager, not necessarily like the ones we know of products, but this is a project, quality assurance. And then who are the users? Mainly in route to market, you have sales managers, because once we leave an organization, we hand over all that to the sales managers. The work streams is what I've just gone through on the lower line on that presentation: marketing strategy, supply chain, and business continuity. We could move to the next slide. Another crowded slide here, but I would like to comment about this slide. This slide basically shows how organizations do a lot of wastage in terms of like manufacturing. If you're in medium or large scale of manufacturing, why would you want to overproduce? All production has to be based on forecast. So if you know that this month you're going to sell 100,000 units, try and produce plus 5%, 10%, but not more than that. Because you've already purchased raw materials that are lying in the store and holding your working capital. That's what we normally call inventory. One is production, number two is inventory. Then there's two, if you have customers who have to keep waiting for a certain product or service, then they have options to go to other manufacturers or your competitors. And then we always recommend that we should not have like a warehouse. Why would you want to keep a warehouse 20 kilometers from your factory? That's waste of time, what we call motion. It costs time to load from one warehouse and offload and load into the other warehouse. And then transportation is all included. All these, we call them wastages. And then when you have defective products, they either have to be reworked or they have to be thrown away. More so like in food. If you have a product that doesn't meet the threshold, you have statutory requirements like Kenya Bureau of Standards. They will look at what you produced. They've given you a certification. So in case of any rework, then that is waste of resources. So we can move to the next slide. This is a slide that is more related to quality management systems. Again, these are options of distribution. Do you want to go through distributors? Do you want to go through wholesalers before you get to the retailers? Or do you want to go straight into the wholesaler and retailer? It all depends on the product that you're having. Because if it's a fast-moving consumer good, the shorter the distance of manufacturing to the retailer and to the consumer, the better for you, and the more fresh the product will be. So we have different options. There are many. These are just 2 examples. All right, next slide, please. This slide, again, not much to read, but it's more about operational excellence, ensuring that you have, you're able to handle customer complaints, you're able to train your team in terms of profitability of the business, and then having proper pricing, and then something to do with public relations. It's very important that you keep a very positive image out there. Again, especially when it comes to food stuff. Next slide, please. This slide is important because if you really want to set up a proper route to market, you really need the people. Remember, that was one of the principles of marketing. So what we have displayed here is just an example of an organization structure. Let's say it's a medium-sized factory. You have a GM, you have a sales and marketing manager, and then you have a customer service, a customer care coordinator who doubles up as a sales coordinator. Then if you are servicing supermarkets, we call them key accounts. If you are servicing through distributors, we have general trade manager, GT manager, then you have sales reps, you have merchandisers. I'll be talking about the role of all these people. Sales reps and merchandisers and all these salespeople are supposed to create demand for your products. Demand creation means you have manufactured, but then someone needs to be out there doing practical selling or telling your target market that, yes, we have this product, and being supported with marketing activities. All right. Next slide, please. On this particular slide, I'll focus more on number 4, what we normally call operational excellence. If you look at, we've done our own summary over the years, and we've realized that customers normally are only interested in what we call OTFF in terms of delivery. They want their orders delivered on time and in full. So if I ordered 100 pieces, I want them as 100 pieces. If I ordered and I need delivery within 24 hours, I need it delivered within 24 hours. And then error-free. Error-free here, the consumers and customers do not want defective products. They want products that meet their expectations. And for example, it doesn't even focus only on the product. If the documentation has errors, say an invoice was raised and it reads 200,000 instead of reading 150,000, that's an error. It really annoys your customers and consumers. So very, very important that we follow the principle of on time, in full, and error-free deliveries. Okay, next slide. Okay, there's in sales we normally say there's something we normally call QDVPP, which is quality of everything that you're doing, your staff, that is your employees, that is the quality of your products, what's your return policy if it's defective. Then distribution is how well are you delivering the products to your consumers. Visibility, is your product visible? The actual product is something we called POSM. POSM is point of sale material. Whenever you walk around kiosks or even supermarkets, you see a lot of products, pictures and posters and being displayed in the outlets. That is to create visibility of the product so that you can make a decision buy. What we normally call impulse buying. You may not even have made a decision to buy an item, but you make a decision once you see it visually. And then the pricing has to be appropriate depending on your target market. Placement means that you already placed your product and it's available to your consumers. Promotion is what we normally know, activating, creating awareness of your product. So it's a common working tool for a sales team. It's what we normally train whenever we are called upon for sales team members. We can move to the next slide, please. We like displaying some of the works that we have been involved in terms of merchandising. Whenever you go into supermarkets, you see some very well-defined arrangements There's a whole objective of this so-called product arrangement and merchandising in outlets. This is where the war is fought by brands, because the more shelf space you have, more often than not, that trickles down to the offtake that you get from your product. For example, if you look at the juices that are here, we just mentioned some of them. This is a Pick and Peel. All these are competitors that are seated in one section of the certain supermarket shelf. But it tells you that for you to make a decision, consumers normally get confused, because you can see some lines on the shelf strips there. Those are prices that are telling you my prices is for Pick and Peel, Fruitful, Afia, Go Fruit. They all give you different prices. And whenever they are running an offer, they even put an extra label there to tell you, yes, we are running a limited offer. You can pick our brand. There's an objective of running and doing these activations. Number one is to encourage trials. You could just be tempted to take a product because of the pricing, then you go and taste the product and you like it. Then there will be a repeat purchase. Whenever we are measuring these shelves utilization, we look at whether they've just filled in the front part of the shelf, because the shelf has some depth in it. You can see some on the left, there's some black space. That should be very well utilized. And then most brands will be fighting for what we call the eye level. Eye level means that when you're pushing a trolley, you don't have to bend to see what is below the trolley. Is that you're able to see it even as you push the trolley. The best example I use in how supermarkets do a lot of their marketing is when they put the milk and bread towards the end part of the supermarket. They will never put it close to the till, because they want you to walk all through, and then eventually as you pick your milk and bread, you'll come back and you may make a decision to buy something else. So it's a tactic. It's like pricing. Why do they write a price of 99? Then they'll give you another price of 999, which is, you may think it's not 1,000, but how much change do you get out of 999 or 99? In some supermarkets, they'll tell you to take a sweet because they don't have the coin or the shilling. So we display this just for you. This is the end result of a route to market, where the product now has reached at arm's length availability to the end user who is a consumer. So we can move to the next slide. Same thing on this slide, it's more to do with the dairy. Again, you look at how intense the competition is in supermarket. Dairy is very different because these products are normally placed on the shelves that is chilled. They have to be stored in what we call cold chain, 4 degrees Celsius and below. Because if they are not stored under refrigeration, then there's a high likelihood they'll get spoiled. So what happens, it becomes a very intense fight for shelf space in supermarkets when it comes to dairy products, because they cannot keep on expanding the shelf, the cold room, or the display coolers just because they've gotten a new product. So you have to prove yourself by having an optic that is commensurate with the space that they have allowed you to utilize. Next slide, please. It's just an example of how you need to be doing your price list. Your price should have the product description. It should have the packaging. Is it a 300 ml? Is it a 500 ml? You should have an ex-factory price, a price to your wholesaler, and a price to the retailer. We always recommend that a product has to have an RLP. What is an RLP? RLP is recommended retail pricing, because unless you recommend to the trade, they can as well overprice your product out of the market. So if you're recommending 20 shillings and you find them selling 60 shillings, that means they're taking your competitor and not your brand. So always ensure you're monitoring the end price that is reaching your consumer. So that was just a sample of how prices looks like. Next. A bit of numbers here, but it's more about your profit story. In Swahili, we call it hadithi ya faida, because whenever you're trading in any product, whoever is handling your product, apart from the very big image your product may have, take brands like Coca-Cola, the trade channel needs to know how much profit they will make by handling your product. The retailer, once they buy your product, they need to know if they put it in the Coca-Cola fridge, how much will they make out of every Fanta they sell, or how many shillings they make out of any Coke they sell. So we always prefer talking about the trade discounts, and then you have to document it so that your trade partners are aware exactly their margins are, because they wake up in the morning to make a profit out of the business. So we can move to the next one. Again, these are slides that talk about operating standards. If you're going to appoint a distributor, you really need to do what we call KYC, know your customer. So because of it's a very ruthless market, you do not want to place products in a distributor who you do not know well. So you may need to get copies of their PIN certificates, trading licenses, to see whether they meet all the statutory requirements, whether they're able to guarantee their business with you. Do they have the necessary infrastructure to sell their products, bicycles, motorbikes, wheelbarrows, vehicles, and all that? So this is a list that talks about what we call the operating standards. And are they ready to sell the entire product range that you also have? The next slide, please. I think it's a continuation. Same case, you have to tell them when to bank your money. They are getting goods on consignment. You need to confirm to them when they will be receiving the products or when they'll be placing their orders. Whenever they have market returns, what is the policy? All that has to be very clearly defined. And then if it's a perishable product like milk, bread, all these perishables, then they have to sell 7 days a week. So you have to appoint partners who are ready to commit themselves to the business. There are some businesses, again, using the dairy example, a dairy factory doesn't close any day in a year, 365 days, because milk is coming from the farmers and from the cows every day. So all this discipline has to be escalated down to your distribution channel. Okay, the next slide. Again, this is all distributor operating standards about the pricing and the territories that we showed you the map. Are they complying with those territories? And yeah, and then the targets. You need to set targets for your trade partners. Next one. Yeah, we have an example of, we wanted to show you a case study of how you come up with a brand. I think we are basing it on one case study that we've done in the recent past. The next slide. There's a dairy factory project. How do you come up with your brand? This is part of route to market. You decide that you want to come up with a brand. First and foremost, you need to have a company name. Remember, these are statutory requirements. Say there's a company called Robert Limited, and the brand is called Karaoke. So you need to come up, you as an investor or the entrepreneur, you need to decide, fine, is it a food stuff? There are some names that obviously resonate with food, be it beverage, be it wheat flour or any other product. So there's something we normally call corporate branding. Let me give you an example of what we call a corporate brand. Corporate brand, let's use another example. We have a company like Diageo, which is East African breweries. If you look at the logo for Diageo or EABL, it has a certain design, what we call the brand identity or architecture. It's just like a building. But then below that, we have so many of their brands. They have Taskers and all those. Those are what we call the portfolio. So there's a parent company that has to have a different identity. And then it's like a family. Then it has some kids. And the kids there are the brands. So again, you have to develop a corporate brand. You have to come up with the image, what resonates with your target market. All this, remember, has to be registered by KIPI. We have the government entity that registers the brands, trade names, patents, brands, and everything. Mainly, you find companies that specialize in branding, the creative agencies. Inside creative agencies, they have some creative minds, guys who are very good at thinking and translating a name into an image. It's a process that is ignored by many entrepreneurs, but it can make or break your brand and your investment. So the more resources and time you spend on this section of corporate branding and portfolio branding, the higher likelihood that you will succeed as a brand. Remember, even you have to design the packets, what will be on the packets. And that packet, we always say, is not yours alone. The government has the ownership of that packet. If you look at any, like any item or product that is for human consumption, behind it, it talks about nutritional value, ingredients. All that has to be certified and tested and proven by organizations like Kenya Bureau of Standards. So it's very, very important that you have this in place. It's a lengthy and tedious one, and it takes time, but it's a journey one has to pass through the route to market process. The next slide, please. Yeah, then you need to create awareness. We talked about above the line, below the line. How do you want to create awareness about your products? You find that one is more expensive than the other. The moment you're going to TV commercials, you have to develop the clips. The moment you're going to digital, what are you posting on social media? Right now, digital is everything, because a lot of your target market may be spending time there, more so the millennials. So deciding where you want to put your adverts is also very important, because it comes at a price. If you have the wrong pricing, then the wrong budget, you have to come up with a marketing budget to determine how much money you want to spend. Let's move to the next slide. PR, media, and all that, managing your brand. Remember, if you don't have a PR strategy, anything can happen. If you produce, say, a foodstuff, and then anything goes wrong, then there's expiry in the marketplace and just a defect within the product. And then the social media will, sort of punch so much holes onto the whole issue. You need someone to rebuild that confidence. So most likely you may need to have a backup plan, the PR company, that can enable you or train you and coach you on how to communicate whenever. And it doesn't necessarily have to wait till you're in problems. You can still keep on talking about the positive part of your company, the positive part of your brand. So media management, very, very important. Marketing budgets are very crucial in route to market, and it's a biggest cost element in this whole process. We move to the next one. This is just an example of some products we were involved in right from scratch, developing the artworks with some creative agencies. And this is what we call SKUs, stock keeping unit, 500 ml. You want it in pouches, you want it in jerry cans. The next one, so different color shades. It takes a lot of time to develop all this because you have to communicate. Like by the images there, you have to, like when you see that drop of yogurt, it needs to trigger some impulse buying implications. The colors, do the colors look like, yes, a good quality product? So like that is yogurt. It has some yogurt there. It has some flavored yogurt. I think we move to the next one. Fermented milk, which commonly in Kenya we call mala or lala. You either mix the purple pink colors. They are generic colors that have been picked up by the industry, especially in the dairy. So the corporate name on this brand is CFL, but then their brand name is Arfresh, and then they have all these multiple products. Long life milk. The next slide, please. Same thing, they have butter, they have ghee, they have ice cream. So you have to have very good branding that will attract a consumer who doesn't even know what is inside the content. And next. These are what we call POSM, point of sale materials. Some are posters that you have to put in the outlets talking about your brand, talk about whether you're running an offer, you need to say whether it's long life milk. We call them collaterals, point of sale materials. The next one, please. Again, all this is, sorry, that you missed one slide. Yeah, I think that was our final slide. It's all about branding. The next slide, I think. Yeah, we call this marketing collaterals because whatever you have on the packets need to be spread out into your tracks, your uniforms, if you have the sales team, because this is what I call free advertising, because when the truck, obviously you pay some licenses, but if the truck is on traffic for an hour, then basically whoever is next to you is able to see which products you have, if your staff is kitted with branded uniforms. So they are also very, very important in terms of creating awareness of your brand. Obviously, I have to admit that this whole process of route to market takes more time. And whenever we take up these projects, none of the projects is shorter than 6 months to get a product from scratch to the outlets. Mainly, they take even close to 1 year. But all said and done, we've tried to crash the entire process into this 1 hour. And thank you for listening to me.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert, for that. And I'm actually happy, just the way you've gone through the details, because I was thinking about the go-to-market strategy. And also sometimes people might confuse it with a product launch, because there's always a process for that. So at least you've been able to clarify on the same. Now, I know that you are a bit tight when it comes to time, but let me just read a particular question that we got from one of the participants. Yes, who was asking, what are the key elements to consider when it comes to the service industry, like consultancy, now thinking of a go-to-market?
Interesting. Yeah, because I know we've focused more on FMCG. You know, service industry is what we call intangible. It's something you probably not see but feel the impact, unlike products that we've given examples today, where if it's a packet of milk, it's a packet of yogurt, you probably determine that it's a value or quality product based on your sampling, testing it, and using it. In terms of the service industry, again, the journey is the same. You really need to know what is the service you're trying to offer and who is your target market. All of them have to go through a feasibility study. And I say feasibility study. Let's take an example. You like to offer, what kind of service do you have in mind? If I may ask, because I can zero in on that. Let's say you want to do,
Robert, I can chip in because my question would have been that as well.
All right.
I consult in organization development.
All right.
And yeah, I was just wondering, is it even an FMCG, that product of mine?
So yours is organization?
Development.
Okay.
A lot of HR in it, yeah.
There's HR in that, yeah?
Yes.
Interesting, because I know even from a business edge perspective, I think because we lean more on manufacturing, we've had a lot of those inquiries, and there's a way to handle that. Obviously, we hand them over to some HR expert. However, it's something that you need to look at. Obviously, you have, how do you add value to clients and consumers, be it for goods and services? It's filling a gap. So you need to understand what gap is there in in the organizations that you need to fill in. And I'll tell you that most organizations have been running, and especially because of the importance of human capital in the recent past, they've been running on those old traditional methods of recruiting and basically putting people, until recently, most companies were not even issuing like job descriptions. And even if you got one, it was just as a formality. So they'll give you a JD after or before your induction, then they would make you sign off. But then we've gone further. For example, I'm just trying to show you why a research and a survey has to be done to understand what are the gaps within the organizations. And then you tailor make, because I think that's a very important area, but it is case to case and company to company. And I see this very common in the SMEs. And when I say SMEs, I'm giving examples, comparing that with multinationals, especially the ones I've worked with, who sort of set up processes and SOPs and procedures in their parent countries, and then they'll come and customize and replicate it in, say, sub-Saharan Africa. So you really need to identify what this gap is within all those organizations, and then build a team. But then you will need to get in access to those companies because you cannot guess. You will need to get access. Probably when you are pitching, you'll be saying, fine, I have the whole menu of this that I can offer, but I need to understand how your organization is run. And I've been involved in a few with other partners, whereby you find that they don't even know how to do their quarterly and biannual and annual appraisals. Why? Because they didn't even set KPIs. And how do you set KPIs? KPIs must come from JDs that are well defined, because JDs also have to be smart. When we say smart, is that you need to set goals. When you're employing a staff, you need to say these are your deliverables. And it's on the roles and responsibility that you pull out some of those KPIs and then you make them measurable. So you need either to pitch as a broad menu of services that you can offer, and then seek those audiences before you go and identify where all these companies are struggling in. So I believe that could be one step, and then take them through the journey. Because I've said, and we've read a lot about all these successful, the Bill Gates of this world, and many other multimillionaires we've seen, or billionaires in the States or even in Africa. They actually plug in a gap and offer a solution to a problem. But then the service industry is such that how do you get access to identify? But there is a common general shortfall in the industry. Because one trigger effect, if you went into an organization, if you had the chance to know their turnover rates and they are 10%, 20%, they are losing 20% of their employees every year, then there has to be something in there. So you'll go in and then probably start doing what we call a root cause analysis. So in a nutshell is that we need to identify the problem, go to market, because you are trying to achieve this so that you sell your service to them. So which segment, again, do you want to, you start by asking yourself, do you want to deal with the multinationals who want you just to customize a bit of what they have, or do you want to deal with SMEs? Is the opportunities that are available in the marketplace. All these multinationals were at one time SMEs, I believe, but someone took them through a journey, and probably the go-to-market journey was utilized in one way or the other. Remember, you also need to brand yourself. Remember, we've talked about branding towards the end of the presentation. Because assuming you are not monopoly and you are many of you, you are 1,000 of you in the marketplace, how do you pull up yourself so that you are visible? Then you go digital. Do you start sending and doing a lot of write-ups on LinkedIn or any other platform that you think your target audience would be visiting? It's doing something differently. So you can see it's going through the same process, just like an FMCG. You're branding yourself, you're marketing yourself, you're creating awareness about yourself, you're setting rates that, yes, I need to be in your factory or in your organization 3 times in a week. And then you have a work plan, you have a Gantt chart and deliverables that are being measured so that even when they are paying your consultancy fee, then it's based on closed tasks and assignments. I don't know whether I've given an overview of concern, question.
Okay. Pretty helpful to me. I don't know about the person who asked the question.
Thank you.
Yes, I think he's really covered that that particular question very, very well. But in case the same, sorry, it was actually Leah. In case she has an additional comment or question on the same, she can just note it down. As of the moment, we do not have any additional questions, just some requests from some of the members where they're asking for a recording of the same. So normally we share this with our members. So please join the organization, join the Commonwealth Business Women Network in Kenya, and you'll be able to access the same. Where the presentation slides are concerned, I will confirm that with Robert that it's okay to share with the participants the same. And yes, we'll be in touch on that particular issue. Yes, and the other comment, this was very, very insightful, very resourceful, Robert. I think you've covered a lot of what we expected and even much, much more. So we are very, very happy about that. So as we wait for any other additional questions or comments that might come in, because I know, Robert, time is not really on your side. Let me just quickly invite all the participants on Zoom and on Facebook to some of our programs that we have coming up next week. So I will just quickly share this. Allow me to do this very, very quickly. Yes, so I'll start with, sorry about that. That was an, sorry. My apologies for that. Let me just do that again. There we are. So next week, as I mentioned, we do these webinars every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And I don't know why my screen is acting the way it is. Sorry, I hope this time it works. Oh, there we go. So next week, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm having an issue with that. So maybe I'll cover that a bit later. But for now, let me invite Rose Nginja. I want to welcome her back to just give us a recap of our session this afternoon, and also to give some closing remarks as well as a vote of thanks. Rose, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Susan. It will be very difficult for me to give a recap, considering how well covered the topic has been by Robert Karaoke. Thank you so much, Robert. I think the main thing that I picked up from here, and Robert, you've illustrated it very well, is that nothing good comes easy. It needs a lot of work. And there's so much planning to be done here. If you have a product or you have a good and you want to put it in the market, you must have a strategy. You must have a pointer. You must have clear objectives of what it is that you want to do. And that strategy, in order for it to be implemented, there has to be a route that has to be followed. And you can't choose a route until you know what your product is. You must know your competitors. You have to know, especially your customers are very important, that it is important that you know them. So once you have all this in place, then you will be able to implement that strategy. Robert started by telling us about FMCG, and it's about fast moving products. And we realize that the way that things are going now, especially with the soft media, most products are actually fast moving, or at least they move faster than they used to. So knowing your product, knowing the category in which they fall, understanding your customers well, so that you know exactly what they want of your product is important as well. He gave us as well that you must have your sales and marketing objectives. Once you have the objectives, you have to outline the activities that will help you to meet those objectives. So that's important as well. And I believe our participants had an opportunity to pick it all up. So I'll just say that for people who are listening in today, either in Zoom or in Facebook, we got a very good outline, a lot of it in detail by Robert Karaoke. And should you have any further questions, remember we have a reference point. Sometimes we are not able to do it all ourselves and we need support. So Robert is a CEO of Business Age Consultancy Strategy, and you can always pick the details of his address with us if you need to consult him. So thanks very much. Thank you to everybody who participated today, and especially to Robert for putting us through the talk. And with this, I hand back over to Susan. Over to you, Susan.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rose, for those remarks. And before now we get to know the end of our session, and we always end that with a prayer. I would like to now attempt to once again invite you to our sessions next week. So yes, bear with me. I hope it cooperates. I don't know if you can you see it?
We can see your screen. I
But
think
it's not.
it's your desktop.
But it's not really showing the Okay, all right. Yeah, my apologies. I was hoping to invite you all, but next week on Wednesday at the same time from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., we have a very, very interesting topic where now we are jumping to what is called open science. And the topic is the benefits of open science to human capital and global growth. This will be led by the award-winning founding director of the Training Center Communications Africa, that is Joy Owango. So that should be very, very interesting. And then this evening at 5 p.m., I don't know if most of you know this, we have what is called a film night hosted by the Commonwealth Business Women Network in Kenya on our Facebook page from 5 p.m., where we choose a film or a documentary that is going to be discussed. And this today, this evening, in commemoration of the Rwandan genocide that happened 27 years ago, the film that's going to be discussed is called The 600, The Soldier's Story. This is a very, it's something that most people don't know about it. There was a battalion of 600 people who actually contributed to the end of the genocide in 1994 because they helped to rescue a lot of people who had been marked for death. So this is going to be a very, very powerful discussion. And the guest is actually the co-executive producer of the film, all the way from Kigali, Annette Olwizeye. I hope I pronounced it properly. Join us this evening, 5 p.m., streaming live on our Facebook page, which is Commonwealth Business Women Kenya. And also join us next week at the same time. And please follow us on Facebook. You get information on all these sessions. And also check out our website, www.cbwnkenya.org. We always list all the programs that we have coming up. So yes, so we are at the end of our session today. So as Rose said, we are thankful to Robert for being here. We're thankful to all the participants for joining us. And we hope to continue seeing us in all our future sessions. As we said, we choose topics that are very, very crucial to the growth of our members. Yes, and I'll continue repeating as I always do. Let's continue to stay safe, wash your hands, sanitize, put on your mask, get vaccinated, and yeah, hope to see you all next week. So I'll invite Rose back to just finish us off with a word of prayer. Rose, Karibu.
Thank you very much, Susan. We can't thank Robert enough.
Yeah.
And I really feel, Robert, being especially in the service sector, we really need to get you back one of these days to take us along that stream step by step as well. Although what you've given us really is quite helpful even for the service sector. Yeah, we just need to translate them to what we do. So thanks again, thank you once again.
Thank you so much to everyone.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, we come to your feet this afternoon, and we want to thank you for the blessing that you've given us in Commonwealth Business Women Network, that we have a chance to interact with so many people and do business with them. Today, we particularly thank you for Robert and all that is given to us. We ask God to guide us to be able to implement it in our businesses, just to grow for the sake of humanity, for the sake of this country, for the sake of our families. Lord God, our Father, we want you to bless everybody who's been here today and just help them so that what they have learned today will be of help, will have an impact in their businesses, in all that they do. Bless Commonwealth Business Women, bless this country, and we ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rose, for that. And let me wish you all a very, very beautiful day and a very, very fruitful remainder of the week. Bye, everyone.
Susan.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.